Since his debut on the PlayStation in 1996, Crash Bandicoot has become synonymous with the console, providing memories for many a gamer with the series' take on the standard platformers, as well as propel a certain developer studio named Naughty Dog into a household name. During his run on the little gray box, Crash starred in 3 major adventures and dipped his toes in the kart racing and party genres. Around the time of the next generation of consoles, development duties for the next Crash adventure were handed over to Traveler's Tales, who back then created mostly licensed games, and is now primarily the LEGO game dev team. They were working on a Crash game that was to be an open-world adventure with even planetary travel. But when publisher Universal Interactive entered an agreement with Konami to publish the next Crash title on all platforms instead of being a PlayStation exclusive, Sony and Universal had a falling out, and Traveler's Tales was told to start over and make the game a more traditional Crash-style type of platformer, in about 12 months. On April 16, 2002, 6 months after its PS2 debut, Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex was released on the big screen, with the overall consensus being that it was a mixed experience at best. Now, my experience with Crash Bandicoot has been very small, as I've only played a little bit of the PlayStation games here and there over the years before I just finally gave up on it. But, thanks to our good friend Stefan, he's requested the Wrath of Cortex this month, so I finally get to go through one of these games. But, is the reception for it as people make it out to be? Well, only one way to find out. Let's take a look. Wrath of Cortex starts with the evil Uka Uka, furious at how Cortex and the other villains have failed in their quest to get rid of Crash. Cortex reveals that he's been working on a genetically enhanced super weapon, but it's missing a power source. Uka Uka suggests using the power of the elementals, 4 rogue masks with the powers of the 4 elements that caused chaos around the world before being sealed away. When the masks are unleashed and causing evil once again, it's up to Crash, his sister Coco, and Aku Aku to stop Cortex and his super weapon, Crunch Bandicoot, yes, you heard me right, Crunch Bandicoot, from taking over the world. From what I've heard about the plots of most Crash games, Wrath of Cortex falls into place pretty nicely here. It is neat to see other evil masks, and Crunch does make for a decent anti-Crash Bandicoot, despite his name, but other than that, it's just enough to get you going to press start and jump in. Now, since Traveler's Tales had to make a more traditional Crash game instead, that's exactly what you get here. You have a main hub consisting of 5 worlds, each having 5 stages and a boss. The majority of the gameplay is running to the goal to collect crystals, breaking boxes, defeating enemies, and collecting Wumpa fruits to get 1-ups, with bonus sections hidden throughout. Like the other Crash games, you can only take 1 hit before you die, unless you collect Aku Aku, who gives you an extra hit of protection. Collect another Aku Aku and you get another hit. 3 masks makes you invincible for a short while. Besides beating the stage, there's secret gems you can collect as well as special relics, things you'll need in order to get the true ending. Something that you probably won't achieve due to some frustrations with this game. For starters, Crash controls very slippery, sometimes causing you to fall off of platforms. Well, that and trying to aim your jumps to make sure you'll land on them. On top of that, the hit detection is horrible, getting smacked when you're clearly nowhere near an enemy's attack, or if you're just a tiny inch close to it. This is very apparent during the boss battles. These things vary in difficulty from decently challenged to just plain cheap. Granted, you'll get some very nice upgrades for your troubles, but it's things you could have used during the boss fight that you were just fighting. For example, when you're fighting Crunch in his water form, a double jump would come in handy since Crash's jump, well, sucks. After finally defeating the boss after numerous tries, my reward is the double jump. Another thing about the levels is the majority of them have you in some kind of vehicle, whether you're playing as Crash or in a few levels as Coco. Some of these are okay enough, like the flying stages and a few of the driving sections. But then you have the ball levels, which can burn in hell. No, seriously, These parts are a damn nightmare due to the slippery controls. I assure you, Monkey Ball this is not. Hell, this isn't even Marble Madness. Mixing all this jank together will indeed result in tons of game overs, and even though you can continue, after a while it just stops being fun because of said jank. Like I said, I don't remember much of the classic Crash games, but I'm sure they play a hell of a lot better than this. Now, with all the gameplay problems, one thing I can say that does fare much better is the presentation. The visuals received a nice overhaul from the PS2 version, with the Xbox port using fur shading, giving the animal characters a more realistic yet still cartoonish appearance to go along with the humans and robots. As for the stages, you'll traverse over many colorful designs, from snow-covered mountains, space, deserts, jungles, and villages to name a few. For audio, the soundtrack has that familiar Crash sound consisting of catchy tunes that have you bopping your head along with it. Unless you hear it over and over from being stuck on a boss fight, and you just end up muting it. But yeah, overall not bad. Meanwhile, the voice cast is a well-known collection of some of the best voice actors around, such as Clancy Brown as Cortex and Uka Uka.
Imbeciles! Fools! Nincompoops! Can't you idiots do anything right? According to this, your track record for spreading evil is pathetic! Uka Uka, it's not our fault that Richard Bandicoot is to blame!
Tom Wilson, aka Biff Tannen, as the elemental Rocco.
What are you looking at, fuzzhead? I'm Rocco, the Earth Elemental. Uka Uka and Dr. Cortex woke me from my captive slumber, and now I'm free to pulverize whatever gets in my way. Oh, don't even think about collecting those crystals, Runt. Because if you do, I'm gonna bury you alive.
R. Lee Ermey as elemental Wawa.
Crash Bandicoot, you've got some nerve setting foot into my domain without an invitation. Don't talk back to me! I'll fix that attitude problem of yours!
Mark Hamill as Pyro.
I realize my brethren have had some trouble with you, my little orange friend, but I'm not quite sure why. Is it getting hot in here? Is it safe to be wearing that fur? It looks flammable!
And Jess Harnell, aka Wacko Warner, as Lolo.
The Crash Bandicoot, eh? Oh, I've heard so much about you, and this is the hero I have to blow away? Ha! Seems like a bunch of hot air to me.
Despite a wonderful cast and nice visuals, the Wrath of Cortex just isn't as good as its PlayStation predecessors. Putting the janky controls aside, the gameplay just isn't as exciting, feeling more like a store-brand knockoff of a better game. By the time I finally got to the final boss and saw that the game wasn't over until I collected all of the things, I was just done with it. I know that collectibles are a big part of the Crash series, but I feel that Naughty Dog's endeavors did a better job at it. And from what I've kinda heard in the Crash community, most of the fans agree that Wrath of Cortex was usually seen as the beginning of Crash's downfall. Of course, Crash went on for many, many games. Some will actually appear here on the channel, but that's for another time. A very, very, very long time. But for now, I'd like to thank Stefan for choosing this experience, and as always, this is the Dali Popka saying, stay green, my friends. I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of me and the Big Green, then click that subscribe button and the bell to get notified when new content arrives. I want to say a special thank you to my patrons for helping not just the channel grow, but me as a creator. You have my forever thanks. If you're interested in the channel and would like to help it grow further, consider becoming a patron today. For the cost of a soda or an item on the dollar menu, you can help myself and the channel provide the best source of Big Green programming and more. Once again, all the thanks and love.